Today, we're making Thai beef salad. Probably the most refreshing, yet most flavorsome salad out there. And the recipe is very established, that it's very simple to make. The only thing I want to talk about and deviate from most recipes is the beef. Now, on this channel, we've talked about contrasting textures multiple times. Thai beef salad, even at the best restaurant, for me, has too much of a contrasting texture. Meaning, the beef is always more chewy than the rest of the ingredients combined. So while you're still chewing your room temperature or cold medium rare steak, the rest of the ingredients are almost disintegrated in your mouth. And that's my only complaint about the Thai beef salad. And today, we're going to solve it by using a different cut of beef. Of course, if you use a fillet steak, that would also do the job. But given the high cost and how flavorsome everything else is, it's not worth the money and you don't get enough beefy flavors to stand up to the rest of the salad. So today, the cut of choice to solve everything is the beef shin. By definition, a very busy muscle, but yet, through low and slow cooking, we're going to break down all the connective tissue and collagen into mouth-coating, juicy gelatin that would absorb all the wonderful flavors and provide just the right balance in terms of texture. All right, enough talk, let's do this. So, you can cook it however you like, but today, just to keep things very simple, we're simply going to add some cold water to a pot that's similar size to the shin, and we add the shin right away. I've tried searing it before and adding all sorts of flavors to this, but honestly, with such a flavorsome dish, just keep it simple. We add a ton of salt, and just a few sprigs of coriander because we're going to use it for the recipe anyway, particularly the stalks, to get rid of the potential of any unwanted gaminess from the shin. And by keeping this neutral, you can cook more than you need for your salad. Keep it in the fridge, and the next day, you can make some marinated beef shin slices. So, once this is boiling, lid on, and we simply simmer it at medium-low heat until you could easily pierce through the whole thing with a skewer or a chopstick. For something this size, about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'll see you then. After 2 hours and a quick ice bath, this is what we have. It might not look as appealing as your steaks, but let me show you the difference. The collagen has broken down and we have some mouth-coating, jelly-like gelatin, which would give you the right kind of contrasting texture with the salad. And of course, given that this is almost braised beef-like, this falls apart extremely easily. So we set this aside while we prepare the rest of our salad. Now, first up, we prepare the star of the show, the dressing. And to do that, we enlist the help of our pesto and mortar. Now, traditionally, in the actual Thai salad, they grind coriander stems, which is extremely complex and flavorful. Unfortunately, if you live outside of Asia, you rarely get to buy coriander with the stem on. But if you've been following me for even a day, we have the next best thing. We have the stalks of the coriander. While not as flavorsome as the stems, it's still extremely flavorsome. So all we need to do, we trim off the dry ends and we chop the stalks. If you have a bit of leaf, it's okay. Now, to that, we add some minced garlic. For me, I like to go ballpark 1-to-1 ratio between the garlic and the coriander. But like I said many times, with salad dressings, as much as I would like to give you measurements, please taste. Trust your own palate, don't trust mine. My coriander might be different than yours. My bird's eye chili might be spicier or less spicy than yours. Taste as you go. They're gonna end up in your stomach anyway. Might as well start now. When I'm using garlic raw, I always like to remove the core, just to avoid the possibility of some unwanted bitterness. When you're braising, it doesn't matter. Perfect. Pesto mortar will take care of the rest. Now, the bird's eye chilies. This is definitely to taste. But one thing I would recommend, no matter how good or bad you are with spices, I always recommend removing the seeds regardless. Because you don't want that one surprise in a mouthful that would make you chug ice water for the next 5 minutes. If you want it spicier, add more chilies, but without seeds. And these chilies, they build up. So when you're tasting, try to aim for 50% of perfection because you're gonna have more than one bite. By the time you finish, what was perfect in the beginning will be way too spicy. Now you wash your hands. Now, We add a very generous amount of salt. The texture of the salt will also help us form the paste. And as much as we like to avoid using sugar on this channel, for this recipe, definitely a bit of sugar to balance not just the spices, but the fish sauce later. And we go. And for this recipe, you really need the grinding of the pesto and mota, because what we're doing now is we're puncturing the cell membranes of the garlic, of the coriander stalk, of the bird's-eye chili, really releasing their flavors. When you use a food processor, because of the sharp knives, you would never achieve the same result. It would still be a decent result, but it's similar to making pesto. For the best pesto, you really need to grind it. Now, once we have a proper paste, we introduce our wet ingredients. First up, the umami bomb, the Thai fish sauce, and this is very strong. Next up, a very generous amount of lime juice. This will give us the acidity to balance the chilies, the garlics, and of course the fish sauce. Perfect. A small dash of neutral oil. This is vegetable oil, just for the texture of the salad. But please don't use extra virgin olive oil. It's the wrong flavor profile. Now, once again, you taste, and you adjust the seasoning. In this case, tiny bit more sugar. And there's our dressing, ready to go. Now, once the dressing is out of the way, we're practically ready. So, simply grab a salad mixing bowl. First up, the red onion. About half. And we slice it relatively thin. Shallot would also work pretty well for this. That's plenty. Some cherry tomatoes. I like to remove the top for better texture profile. And we simply slice it in half. And this is another source of umami because this is so rich in glutamic acid. Perfect. And to bring some freshness to a very flavorsome salad, some cucumber. Depending on how tough the skin is, if the skin is really tough, I like to remove it. But in our case, because this is a Japanese cucumber, it's not very chewy, so we'll just keep the skin on. But it's very important to remove the seeds to avoid unnecessary dilution of flavors. I know the flavors are really strong, but still, once this hits the salt from the dressing, it will start to release a pool of liquid. And for any salad, you don't want a pool of liquid at the bottom of your plate. Not too thin, you still want a bit of a crunch. The coriander leaves from earlier, we'll add them in 2 stages. So here, they go in. A bit of mint at this stage as well. And we break the large leaves apart. Now the beef comes back to the party and we simply make thin slices. It's very important that the shin is very cold, otherwise it'll just fall apart. The beef you can also make the day before and let it cool down naturally in the fridge so that on the day, you don't even need to switch on the stove for this recipe. Look at that, it's so beautiful. It's plenty. We'll save these for garnish. Beef goes in. Now remember, the pesto and mota we made the sauce in and have not yet washed. To that, we add some toasted peanuts, which would provide us with some texture and mop up all these beautiful flavors. We'll just crack them. Perfect. We add some to the bowl. Now, we add this wonderful dressing. You want to get to a point that everything is coated with a thin layer of the dressing, but we don't have a pool of liquid at the bottom. A touch more oil, just for texture. Perfect. Now, we can plate. First up, we have our beef for garnish here. Bit of dressing for the beef. You can plate however you want, by the way. This is just more for fun. The dish is good to go. Now, we have our lettuce. We remove some outer leaves. I personally don't like to mix the lettuce leaves with the salad dressing. This is more of a cleanser to me. Lettuce, salad. More peanuts. Once again, pick some mint, some coriander. And that's it. Extremely flavorsome and extremely refreshing. This is Thai beef salad. I really hope you enjoy.